Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special meetup from DigitalOcean. I'm Erika Heidi, and as you already know, I'm live streaming from Amsterdam. And let's get started. I will be talking about Ansible. So I will just share my screen here. Before I get started to the talk, I would just like to introduce myself very quickly. I work as a developer advocate for DigitalOcean. I wrote a book called Vagrant Cookbook, and it is about Vagrant, obviously, but it also has some chapters on Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, and that's when I started to use Ansible and I started to enjoy it. So I created a project called Ansible.com, which is inspired by Puppet. It's basically a web interface where you can choose options and download a bundle with Vagrant using Ansible as a provisioner. So I'm still going to show it for you. And I'm also an open source contributor and member of Amsterdam PHP Women. So enough talking about me. So what to expect from this talk? I will start with an Ansible overview, then I will show how to run ad hoc commands to control servers, and then I will show how to use playbooks to automate commands and deployment of servers. And then I will give you a kind of a crash course on writing playbooks, the most important parts, the features that you can use to write your playbooks. All right, so let's start with an Ansible overview. Ansible is a configuration management tool or an automation tool similar to Puppet and Chef, but it is really focused on simplicity. It's very simple and straightforward. It uses a very human-readable language. It uses YML for the provisioning script, so it's very human readable. Especially like for developers, we are usually used to YML, I guess. So it's also agentless. It doesn't need anything to be installed on the machines that you want to control. You just need to install the controller machine. It has an extensive list of built-in modules, things that you, with other tools, you would have to download third-party modules. There's already a lot of stuff built-in on Ansible, and it's used by big names like Twitter, Atlassian, EA, Spotify, even NASA. So it's quite new compared to Puppet, for instance, or even Chef. And it's getting very popular with developers, especially because of its simplicity. So how to install Ansible? It's very easy. On Mac OS, you can use Brew. On Ubuntu, you can use the PPA repository. It's better because then you get a newest version of Ansible. And if you use Windows, I'm sorry, but Windows is not officially supported as a controller machine. Well, it's not a big deal because you can always use a VM for that. So we can have a VirtualBox Ubuntu VM and use it as a controller machine, or you can create a VPS on DigitalOcean and use it as a controller machine as well. So it's not a big deal. Okay, and how do we configure the access? So Ansible uses SSH, and there are different ways of setting this stuff to work, but the most recommended way, and it's the easiest way to deal with the commands, to run the commands, is by having the servers accessible via SSH using key-pair authentication, and having a user in the server with sudo permission, and especially with the no passwd option, because then you don't need to provide the password all the time that you run the commands and Ansible commands. And you can get the slides afterwards. This link has a tutorial on how to set up step by step this kind of setup, SSH setup. So Once you have the Ansible, the controller machine ready, and the servers are accessible via SSH, then we can start talking about inventories and ad hoc commands. So inventories are the file that contains the machines that Ansible will control. So this is the default location for the inventory file is on etc Ansible hosts. And this is a very simple example. It's a ini file. So you have groups. I have two groups here, web servers and test servers. I can have as many hosts or IP addresses I want. And I can also create children groups. So I could have here a children group like all servers with containing web servers and test servers, for instance. The inventory file doesn't need to be in this location. You can have inventory files per project, for instance, and then you will just need to pass as an argument to the commands the location of the inventory file. So having your inventory file in place, you can start running ad hoc commands. Ad hoc commands, you can run commands in from 1 to hundreds of servers. You can run in any of the groups you have in your inventory or only on a specific host if you want. And this is how you run the commands. So you have Ansible, you have the group, and you can specify an inventory file, and then the command or the module you want to run. So I have some examples here, but I'm going to show a demo. So let me just see how I can share this. I have to share again. Let me see. Okay. Can you see my terminal?
Yes.
Okay. So I have, okay, no, not this, not yet. But I have an inventory file here. So I created another inventory file, and we have 3 groups here. I just used one server per group just so I had more to show how it works. And I have a children group here, test servers, that comprehends the 3 groups, test 1, test 2, and test 3. So I'm going to run a command. First, I'm going to run in all servers, all machines in my inventory. But I'm going to use this inventory specifically. And I am going to run the ping module. So it's going just to ping the machines and give a status about these servers. So as you can see, all 3 servers responded with success. So the machines are online. I can also run a command, shell command with -a. I'm going to run php-v. And some machines will have PHP installed, others won't. I don't remember now which one have. Okay, so I have 1 success and 2 errors because PHP is not installed on these 2 servers here. So it's not possible to run the command php-v, and that's why I got an error. And instead of using all here, I can also use a specific host. And then we'll run only in this host or in a specific group. Test 2 or test 1. Test 1 has PHP, so you have the success. And this is how you run the ad hoc commands. Okay. So let's get back to the slides now. Okay, now this is all good and it's fun to run commands in the servers, but this is not automation yet, right? We are running commands and we want to automate this stuff and deploy servers and do all this fun stuff. And to do that, we are going to use playbooks. So playbooks are in Ansible the equivalent of a Puppet manifest or a chef recipe. It's basically the file where you are going to define a series of tasks that they are going to be executed to reach a state in the server. For instance, installing a PHP web server and installing your application, running all necessary tasks to have your application up and running. So this is a very simple example of a Ansible playbook. It's a YML file. We start with the hosts all. And this is just saying that we want to run this in all hosts from our inventory, from the inventory that we are going to provide. We can limit here to a specific group or a host, or we can also limit in runtime when we run the commands. We are defining a sudo true, just a default for the tasks. So all the tasks will use sudo by default. You can override this in each task if you want. And we have the tasks section, which is a YML array, and then we have two tasks. So the name is just really for output. You're going to see the output, and this is going to show up, so you need to know what is going on. So we are using the apt module here in both tasks. The first one is just going to run a update, the apt get updates or equivalent, depending on the operating system you are using, because this is this module abstracts the management of packages in the operating system. The second task will install Nginx. So what we have here is we want to change the state of the package Nginx to latest. And to run playbooks, we are going to use another command, Ansible playbooks, not Ansible alone anymore. And this is how we run the playbooks. I have another demo to show you how. Okay, so now I have this basic playbook is the same I showed in the slides. It's just two tasks, and let's run it. So I'm going to use Ansible playbook. I'm going to pass the inventory file that I used before, and I can, instead of already running the tasks, if you want to check which hosts or which tasks are going to be executed, you can also do this. We can do dash list hosts, and at the end we have the playbook file that we want to run. So this will cause, this will not execute anything, we just list the host. So if we run the command like this, we are going to run the tasks in all three servers in this inventory. You can also list the tasks that are going to be executed. So you have two tasks here. And to run the playbook, just remove this. But I want to run in only one group or one machine. Let's use test one. So this -L here is to limit the execution just for one group or one host. So now you can see the output from Ansible. It's running the playbook. So it's running on all because this is what we have inside the playbook. But the runtime, the -L will override this. So first we have getter effects. This is the first thing that Ansible does. It collects information about the server. Then we have the update apt cache task, and we have the install Nginx task. So we see here that nothing was changed, and this is because the Nginx package was already installed in the machine, so nothing changed. But if we run again in another server that doesn't have Nginx install, I'm not sure now, but I think this one, the test tree doesn't have it, then you should see a state was changed in the server in this case. Takes a little bit. No, it's already installed, but you get the idea, right? Let's try, we can try another package maybe. But I want to show also something interesting. So if you like fun things, you can install Calsay, and then everything changes. Let's run this again in test 2. So the output now uses Calsay, and it's really cool. Just a little treat from Ansible. All right. Okay, so yeah, it's going to take a while because it's updating everything. Anyways, let's get back to the slides. Here. Okay. So you saw how to run commands and run playbooks. And now I'm going to talk about how to write smarter playbooks. What are the things that you can use to create smarter playbooks and make them more versatile and work with different operating systems, for instance? Not only Ansible, but all these configuration management tools, they have some features. They have features that are similar to programming languages. They have variables, conditionals, loops, all this sort of stuff that helps us to do things more versatile, more dynamic, and Ansible has it too. It all starts with variables, of course. This is the first thing that we always learn. So instead of defining the packages in here, this is a very simple example. Instead of defining the package statically, we are defining a variable. So there is a special section in the playbook, the vars section, and you can define variables here. These variables will be global. They will be available in all the play. So you can use them in the same file, also in other files that are included, also in templates. If you already used Twig before, the template engine, then it's probably very similar to you because they are very similar, the syntax. Ansible uses Jinja too, the template engine from Python, and it's quite similar. Facts. I mentioned facts before when running the playbook. So facts are information discovered from systems, basically. And the facts, they contain information like network interfaces, IP addresses, OS family, and things like that. And you can use this information to make your playbook work, basically, across different operating systems. That's the idea. Then you can get the facts you can access via commands. Let me show you quickly. Oops. Okay, screen share is always confusing. All right, so if you want to get all facts from a system, you can run Ansible. This is for using the inventory. You use the module setup. And this should get facts from all the servers. So, this is a lot of stuff, but yeah, basically, this is how you get it, it's a JSON. And you can find, for instance, Ansible OS family, package manager, and Ansible LSP will show the operating system, the distribution, and a lot of stuff you can get here, right? So back to the slides. Is it here? Okay. Okay, now loops. So loops are implemented in Ansible in a very simple way. It's by using this option with items. It's basically a YML array that you pass to the task, and instead of only executing one time, the task will loop through these values. And so it's very handy, for instance, to install packages. Like in this example, you have all the packages in an array variable, and then you can just use this item. And when you use with items, Ansible will loop through these values, and it's much better than creating one task for each package that you want to install. You can do it also with dictionaries, and for a lot of stuff, it's very useful. You can also define the array variable in the var section in a variable. Then you can use it not only in this file, but also in other files that are included in the play. Conditionals are also very useful, and you can basically we'll be using this option when, and when this expression is true, then the command will be executed, or the any module, anything that you are going to execute in this task is only going to run if this expression is true. In this first example, the command for shutting down the server will only run if the OS family is Debian. So this is affect Ansible OS family. But you can also use any variables that you defined before. And the second example will fail the provisioning. This fail is a it's a module to stop the provisioning, and this will happen only if the variable bar is not defined. So if you didn't define anywhere in your playbook before this variable, then the provisioning will fail. There is also another another way of using conditionals that is very common, is when you need to perform a command, and depending on the output from the command, you are going to execute something. It's a conditional execution depending on a output from a command. For this, we usually need two tasks. First, we need to register the output from the command into a variable, and then we check the result, the content of the variable, to see whether it's true or false, if it's failed. So what we do here is that we register this variable PHP install, and we got the output from the command php-b. And as you saw before, when running the ad hoc commands, when you run php-v, if PHP is not installed naturally, it will give you an error. So in order to avoid stopping the provisioning, because if you don't use this ignore errors, the provisioning will stop. So we add this ignore errors true, so the provisioning continues. The second task and the third task will have conditional execution. So the second one will only be executed if PHP is installed. So debug here, it's a module that can just output the contents of a variable or a message. I have also a demo to show about the conditionals. Okay. So this is the playbook. And it's the same thing that I showed before. So let's run it. So I'm going to run it first in the test1 server because it has PHP installed. Oops, cow. You can disable it if you want. It's just editing a file, by the way. So we have here is, what we have here is, here we have the first task, check if PHP is installed, and then you see that it changed something because we got the output from the command and we put it on a variable. So the variable changed, and that's why we see change here. And this task do something if PHP is installed, it's going to be executed. So we have the debug from the variable. So it doesn't have only the std out. It has also other information changed to the command that was executed and other data and the std out here. So the other task, the last task, was not executed, was skipped because it didn't. The conditional was not met. The condition was not met. If you run it on another server that doesn't have PHP installed, then we get a different output. So you see here first, check if PHP is installed, and then we failed because no such file director, PHP is not installed, but then the error was ignored, so we could keep going on the playbook. And so the task that was executed in the other play is not being executed this time, of course. It's skipped, and then this task was executed, just saying the message that PHP is not installed. So this is just to show you how it works, how the conditionals works. All right. So what else we have? Templates. Templates are very important because they make it very much easier to set up services, basically configure services, especially. So we see here is what we see here is a vhost Apache from Apache, and we are just creating a vhost as a template. And the doc root here, we can define it as a variable in the playbook and then use in the templates. We can also have all sorts of other variables here, and in this way we can easily reuse this template and all this provisioning for other projects. And to use the templates, we use the module template. We define the source of the template and the destination in the server where this template should be rendered. But you know that whenever you change a service or you create a vhost on Apache or Nginx, things like that, you need to restart the service. And that's when we use handlers. So handlers in Ansible are the equivalent of services in Puppet and Chef. We define handlers to make it easier for restarting servers. And this is how we do it. We have a special section, handlers. And the handler has a name. This is what we are going to use to refer to this handler. And then we have the service and the state. So in here, I have the restart Apache handler, and I'm just going to restart Apache with this handler. And the handlers, they are very similar to tasks. They only run in the end of the playbook, but the difference is that they only run if they were notified, and they run in the same order they are defined. So I have here the tasks. I have one task changing the template, and then I use the notify option here to notify this handler that Apache needs to be restarted. But this is only going to run at the end of the play. So all the tests are going to be executed normally. And at the end, Ansible will see which handlers are notified, and then they will be executed. Also, it doesn't matter which order you notify the handlers, because they will be executed in the same order you define them, the same, similar to the tasks. If you really need ultimately to restart a service after a task is executed, like right after the task is executed, you can force the execution of a handler, but it's not the most efficient way for doing that. That's why it's done this way, but just so you know that you can force. So these things were the most important things that I wanted to show about writing playbooks. So variables, loops, conditionals, templates. Now, how do we organize all this stuff? Because real provisioning has a lot of different files. It should have at least. You are not going to put everything in a single file. It's not the most recommended way. So we use rows in Ansible to organize the provisioning. So rows in Ansible, they are the equivalent of Puppet modules and Chef cookbooks. So we can use rows to organize all the files that we need in our provisioning: tasks, templates, handlers, and also other stuff. Variables can be organized inside the rows. And it's basically really a predefined directory structure where you should put your files, and Ansible will already know where to find them. So this is a basic example. We have in the left, we have the directory structure. So in the same directory, in the same level, I have the playbook. I have a directory called roles, and each directory inside the roles directory will be a role. I have two rows here, init and nginx PHP. Init has the minimal structure necessary, so it only requires at least a directory called tasks with a main.yml file inside it. And this is where your tasks will be defined, the main tasks of this role. The nginx PHP role has a more complex structure because it also has templates and handlers. And this is how you organize this stuff. So your playbook now will be much more simplified. Instead of defining a lot of tasks here, handlers and all this stuff, you can just use the rows and include the rows you want to use in the same order you want them to be executed. So this is the recommended way for organizing your provisioning with Ansible. Now I'm close to finish. These were the most important things I wanted to share about running and writing playbooks. And now I just would like to share a few resources very quickly. The first thing is the Ansible Galaxy. It's the official repository, let's say, of roles for Ansible. And you can find all sorts of different roles here for a web server, Nginx, as you see here in the search, and all sorts of stuff. The roles here usually are quite complex because they are supposed to work across many different operating systems. And that adds complexity to the roles, of course. They need to check a lot of stuff. If you want something simpler, something to get started, maybe to learn, then there's Fansible. So Fansible is an open source project I started, and it's inspired by Puppet. So it's a web interface where you can select the options here, a base box for the Vagrant box, network and web server options, and then you can download the bundle with a Vagrant file and all the Ansible provisioning. And we use our own roles. They are very simplified. They are targeted looked at Ubuntu servers. They are simple, but it's nice as a learning experience. So you can download a bundle there and have a look on how the roles look like to install a PHP web server. And you can also bypass Vagrant. You don't need to use Vagrant. You can also use it with remote servers as well. So that was what I had for today, basically. And in the community, in the DigitalOcean community, you can find other tutorials about Ansible, some nice tutorials. And this is the link if you want to have a look. And well, I guess that's it. I'm not sure if how we could handle questions.
Do you want to make yourself live? Unshare your screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Hi.
Can you see everyone?
Yes.
Do you guys have any questions?
No questions.
questions.
Okay.
Thank
if
you, Erika.
Remember something.